Hey everyone, end all be all here, and welcome back to GAC. This is going to be my very first GAC with triple fleet defense, so it's going to be an interesting match. Made quite a few changes since the last GAC season, obviously with triple fleets. Got my Scarab Rebel Pathfinder Biston all relicked up, got my Gar and ISC up to G11 just to ensure that Gauntlet outspeeds some of those Negotiator fleets. And then it's got some of the newer ships unlocked as well. So, all set to do, to have fun with triple fleet defense. If you guys haven't already checked it out, check out my last video, which is a guide on the fleet strategy. I think I've managed to be a little bit exhaustive, but there's obviously a ton of stuff that I've missed out, especially on some of the newer ships. So feel free to let me know in the comments section if there's anything additional you would like to get added in the guide. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the Grand Arena video. So this is actually my second Grand Arena match for this week. The first one I won. That one was against my opponent was IUSJC81, who had slightly less GP than me, but had all the toys, same toys as me, all the GLs, all ultimates, Starkiller, etc. So, and really good player. Typically likes to keep 4 GLs up front, goes with 2 GLs on offense, and did struggle a little bit against my Ray. I believe he took um, gas and cleaned it up with Bad Batch or Geos. I don't remember which one. And then at the back, I kept my Kenobi, and my opponent did not have a solution for Kenobi, which is why they attempted one, and then they lost, and then they didn't attempt the rest of the battles at all. So I had already cleared the board by then, so I just needed to clear ships to win. But I did struggle a little bit on defense. 3 battles against SLKR. I still don't have and that's because I needed my Aura Bounty Hunter gas counter against JMK failed, so I needed to use my Jedi with JML against the JMK squad, and then I didn't have Jedi for the SLKR, so I had to struggle a little bit on that. I ended up using 3 good teams to get the SLKR down, but the rest of the board was one shot. Um, Quick update about my ship. So I decided to go all in on ships all the rest of the week. Wanted to keep all my toughest ships on defense, so I kept Negotiator, Executor, and Malevolence over here, and just hoped to be able to take out my opponent's ships with whatever I had left. In this particular case, my opponent did not keep Executor on defense, so I was able to clear pretty effectively. But not everyone is going to do that. So in the case that that happens, they also decide to keep Executor or Negotiator on defense or both, then probably neither of us might be clearing ships. But that's let's see if that happens in this match. So my current opponent is Mini Toda Kana, and again, pretty decent player. Very It's got about 1 million more GP than me, which is I would guess about par for the course this time. Typically the opponents I face have higher GP, but GP difference really doesn't matter as much as long as you have the main characters and you have the main counters down. And my opponent and me, just like me, he's got all 6 GLs, got Starkiller, and he's got slightly better mods than me, but and definitely a better character game. So I decided to go again heavy on ships to try to trip my opponent up over there. So this is what I did on defense, and my opponent has only cleared 1 zone so far. He's one shot the whole front zone. I kept Starkiller with EP and a couple of GLs, SLKR and Sith Eternal. Was able to one shot all of them, no problem. And then at the back, I kept 2 more GLs, hoping to trip him up. I kept my Lord Vader, and I kept my Ray, and then some other weak team because it's a bow team. And what else do we have? And then I kept up top, I kept my Dash, Bam, that's a team I usually keep, and a couple of other weaker teams. I was really hoping the character zone is nothing much, just 4 GLs, but I was really hoping for my ship zone to hold. And this time also, just like last time, I kept my Executor as well as my Negotiator. And then I kept an Empire fleet on defense. Here, I would change things slightly. Gauntlet is actually a great starter if you're going on offense, especially against fleets like Malevolence or Negotiator. But on defense, I think TIE Fighter Pilot might have a slight edge rather than the Gauntlet. But that's for next time. Anyway, so there we go. That's the That's the fleet zone. And then let's take a look at my opponent. He's kept a decent defense down south. Up top, there's just one GL. There's a Sith Eternal with Malak, which means that my Grievous is going to have problems. The rest of the teams shouldn't be much of a problem at all. It's just a Sith Eternal that's a bit of an issue. And then down south, he's kept a couple more GLs. He's kept his Rey, Lord Vader, and a couple of other relatively weaker teams. The Dash doesn't have an Omicron, and the Rey team is weak actually because it doesn't have the heroes in there. He's kept heroes with Finn in a separate team down south. But yeah, let's go ahead and take care of this zone first, and then see what's at the back, and then we can decide what to take against the sea up north. Now, because this is a slightly weaker version of the Ray, I decided to take my gas in there. Gas is typically quite reliable against Ray teams which don't have the hero brothers in there. The Inspire actually does a ton, and as long as Finn is not there, Hero Finn, to give that Inspire and the bonuses associated with Inspire, it becomes slightly easier. So all you need to do is so here I what I did was I did my form up with Rex first because I wanted to get turn meter and use Echo Special to stun R2D2 to prevent him from hiding everyone, and that did happen. The stun did land, and I was able to prevent R2D2 from reviving, from stealthing. So the first whirlwind is out, so you can typically expect gas to sit down after the first whirlwind. And the second whirlwind usually doesn't happen because the ultimate Ray usually gets enough turns to get the ultimate. So what you have to do is when Ray gets the ultimate, you have to essentially ensure that gas stands up. That's why a lot of people prefer to keep Rex's form up for the moment when gas sits down, so that you're able to give your own team turn meter and then get him up back up fast. But in this case, it worked out pretty okay. There's really not much damage on this team apart from Ray, which means that they're we are able to survive, withstand a lot of the hits, and take care of things over there. So now I've got the first annihilate ability available, Rexecute, and I decided to get rid of R2D2 because stealth really is a problem for Gas, because if people are under stealth and they attack him, then Gas is not able to do attack back, to counter back, and I want him to be doing damage at all times. So now you can see over here, form up is saved for when Gas is down, and I am able to get Gas up before Ray has a chance to do her ultimate or another whirlwind. So you can see over here, Ray is on her way to another ultimate, and my team is safe because I don't even have a sacrifice till now, and Gas is still standing up with full protection on everyone. Things tend to get a little bit dicey if there are 4 people standing, like if Fives has done an ultimate, and Fives has done a sacrifice, and Ray does the ultimate. Sometimes what happens is Gas is because the ultimate is distributed between 4 people, Gas tends to go down. But in this particular case, you can see my Gas is modded for protection and defense, so he didn't go down to the ultimate. He did go down to the whirlwind right now, but I'm just trying to focus down on Ray to take her down before she does another whirlwind to take some of my other characters out. As you can see over here, pretty good outcome. I have all 5 of my characters standing and Gas at full health and full protection to end with 70 banners. So definitely a cheap way to take out Ray. It's a little less consistent if you have Cat in there, or if you have the Resistance Hero Brothers, but otherwise it's pretty consistent. All right, so here I decided to take in my Traya against the non-Omicron Dash. Traya's squad is not very highly relicked up. I think relic 3 or 4 or something like that. So I had to get in a two supporting tanks in there. On hindsight, probably I should have gotten Raddus instead of Zalbar, just because that additional health recovery on crit is pretty useful to have on this team when you're countering high relic dash teams. So that's something which I probably should have done. And my Sith Empire Trooper is also not very relicked up. In fact, he's just G12, so he's also not really surviving much. So it's essentially a team to buy the Sith trio some time with 2 tanks in there, just so that they're able to get enough damage done. And I'm not really very bothered about banners at this stage because I want to prevent my opponent from clearing me, and want to be able to do a decent job with that. And I just want to be able to clear my opponent and one shot the whole board. That's my goal at this point of time. Not really bothered about bleeding banners and counters like this. All right, so you can see over here, Vandor is out, and Young Han is out, killed himself with the counters, and now it's just a question of getting rid of Dash and and then taking out L3 towards the end. So a lot of times I prefer to keep the Sith trio on defense, Traya, Scion, and Nihilus. But if I see that my opponent usually likes to keep Dash, and or they have an Omicron Dash, that's when I usually keep Sith trio on offense, just to be able to have a clear shot of taking these guys down. I think I'm trying to recover some protection on Scion over here. Not sure why, because it's really not an efficiency game, but yeah, it's just good to be in the habit of recovering protection from now and then. All right, so ended up with 57, which is pretty poor banners, pretty poor banners. Now let's go ahead and take out the Finn squad, the Resistance squad with the Resistance Hero Brothers. You don't want the squad to get ahead of you, because if the Hero Brothers get going, they can tag team and cause some mayhem with some of the uniques that they have. But so that's why I decided to take in my Mon Mothma squad. Mon Mothma I usually keep on defense, but my opponent has really cheap ways of taking out Mon Mothma. So I think he's got a relicked up Baddis as well as Javas, which is extremely cheap to take out Mon Mothma squad. So I didn't want to give him that advantage. I decided to go in with my Mon Mothma squad against this. It's a cheap enough squad to use in the front. It's really not needed for anything much at the back. It can be useful for GL cleanup, but I had other things to take care of my GL squad, so I wasn't too worried about that. So that's what we're doing over here, just chaining the hits. And I went with the TM version, which is POW and Hot Rebel Scout. And with the first mover advantage that Kyle Katarn gives, this is actually a pretty decent team to take on offense now, because it's going to outspeed most teams, and it's going to start. It's going to basically allow you to get the first mover advantage and keep things going. So if your opponent does not have a cheap counter to this particular squad, the Mon Mothma squad, then you can keep it on defense. If they do, save it on offense, and you can do really well. It's so great to take out some of those teams in the front, which are not exactly cheap and require some heavy investment, but you want to take it out cheaply without using your bounty hunters or your gas or some of the other squads that you need to take out GLs. If you want to save all that before you see what's at the back, then Mon Mothma is a great squad to use up front. All right, only 65 banners here, only one squad remaining back in the front, and that's going to be the Lord Vader squad. And this one, I decided to use my JML Watt counter. This typically tends to be pretty consistent. There's no Thrawn in here, there's Show Trooper, but it's a pretty consistent counter with the JML and Watt in here. I usually take in Baddis or another support character, but I didn't have any other use for Jedi Knight Luke, so decided to use him in here. He does reach his ultimate fast with Watt in there, but it's just a question of surviving till you get some of these characters out. And I typically like to get Vader out first, after getting the RG out, because RG is always taunting. But otherwise, get Vader out, get Thrawn out, get Maul out, and then once it's only Lord Vader, then it's a pretty easy enough battle. You just take your time, heal everyone up, reach the ultimate, and keep doing specials. Keep healing everyone up with Hermit Yoda. Keep cleansing with the Shakti, and recover protection. So it's a pretty straightforward battle. For all versions of Lord Vader, I try to go with this particular counter. It gets me at least 62, 63 banners usually, because it gives you more than enough time to recover protection safely without the risk of timing out. All right. So at the back, we do have another GL. So the fourth GL is there at the back, which is going to be JMK, and then there's Iden and Mothma as well. And this is a relatively cheap version of JMK. There's no Jedi Master Kenobi, there's no Padme, just a couple of tanks in there, Mace and Clone War Chewie. But we have our own JMK that I saved on offense that we should be able to use to take this out. Now, my opponent did go and cleared the board with the exception of fleets. They did manage to one-shot my Executor and my Chimera. I think they took their own Executor on offense. But look over here, they had two battles on my Negotiator and couldn't take it down, which I was really glad to see. So, if you want to ensure that your opponent is not going to clear, keep tough ships on defense. I think my opponent almost cleared this Negotiator. What they mentioned was I think one of their counters failed, probably the rebel fleet, and they didn't close it out on time and left it preloaded. And preloaded Negotiator is extremely bad news, especially with keeping three fleets on defense now. If you've already got three fleets on defense and you spend one extra battle over here, then you've got essentially no fleets left to clean out. So, seven fleets is really stretching your fleets thin. So, after two attempts, you might as well give up because there's really nothing left for you to take down additional fleets. And at the back, my opponent was able to one-shot both my GLs at the back as well, so no problem there. So, and then, yeah, in the front top zone as well, everything was one-shot. All right, let's go ahead and so I knew that I was going to take Wampa against the Iden team. I was hoping to save Wampa against C, but the C had Malik in there, so I anyway couldn't be able to use Wampa over there. So this one is a pretty value counter. I think the best use of Wampa is against Iden teams, just because Iden teams, otherwise, if you don't have a Wampa, they take quite a lot to get through. They take an expensive team, and there is a risk of failure. But Wampa is, especially if you modded Wampa for tenacity, like mine has got 150% tenacity. If you've got that kind of modding on the Wampa, and you've got decent relic levels to give you at least 95 to 100k health, then it's a really, really straightforward counter, even with relic mod Iden teams. So that's a sure shot 68. I think the most valuable way to use Wampa on offense these days. And then I decided to use my Jedi Master Kenobi in a mirror, and I got an R2D2 in here to stealth and to snipe the enemy mace out. But look over here. I made a really critical error. I don't know why I did that, but it's a really stupid mistake that I made. I gave the cooldown reduction to Cat, but then instead of giving it to R2D2 to hide everyone, I gave it to my Jedi Master Kenobi for some reason. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I was trying to save the yeah. So over here, luckily you can see the cat managed to take out my Padme, which is why I survived over here. But if the cat had taken out my own cat, then this would have been a loss, and I wouldn't have been able to clear the board. So this was a very lucky piece of, really a lucky piece for me, because if the wrong person had been taken out by cat, then I would have, I wouldn't have recovered from the mistake that I made. But the typical way to play this is you hide everyone except Jedi Master Kenobi, and then it's a 5v4 battle, and you're able to take everyone else out without any problem at all. It's still not a lost cause. Padme does add to survivability, but she's not essential to the squad. So even without Padme, I was able to do a decent enough job to take these guys out. It's a 4v4 situation, but both the cat as well as R2D2 do add a little bit of stat bump, and as long as you're able to focus down on cat, take her out first, the rest of the battle is pretty straightforward. So that's what I'm doing over here, taking down cat first. Now that she's out, I focus down on Ahsoka, snips, and take her out. And then it's just a question of cleaning up Mace and Jedi Master Kenobi. So it's a pretty straightforward battle. Mirrors are usually not much of a problem at all. This I felt was slight overkill for the mirror, just because it was a slightly weaker team, but I didn't have any other use for my Jedi Master Kenobi, so might as well have used him for this. One thing I could have tried probably was to go with my Padme squad. Padme, and since I had Cat and Snips and C3PO in my Rebel squad, I could have probably tried Padme against this squad and taken Jedi Master Kenobi in a solo against the Sith Eternal. But you know, on hindsight as 2020, you don't always make the best decisions, and you have to live with that. So was able to take out the JMK squad pretty easily. I think JMK is hard-coded to go after R2D2 for whatever reason. But my R2D2 is almost out. There we go. That's the savior triggered, and he's almost taken out. That's why I decided to give him some amount of damage immunity so that he doesn't get taken out too easily. And then I take out Kenobi over there to get 59 banners. Not the best banners, and could have gone sideways, but things worked out. All right, then I think I decide to go after the Sith Eternal squad, I think, because that's the next toughest team left. And I don't have any GLs. I really don't have anything much to take this out, but I decided to try my General Grievous squad. This one is a failure, especially with Malik in there. If there's no Malik, even if there's another taunter like Empire Trooper, it's a pretty easy counter. If there's no tank, then it's an extremely easy counter because you can go after Sith Eternal directly. But over here, Malik always prevents you from going after Sith Eternal, and that's a big problem. So you can see over here, I'm trying to. I should have probably done an AoE over here, but I did a basic, I think, to land healing immunity. I was hoping that Malik would have buff immunity and wouldn't be able to taunt, and I will be able to target Sith Eternal down. And that's what I'm trying to do over here. I'm trying to focus down on Sith Eternal, take him down first before any of the side characters decides to take any of my team out. But not really making much progress over here. Finally did an AoE. I think I decided that it's only a matter of time before Sith Eternal reaches his ultimate. So might as well try to take some side characters out. And the Sith Eternal is really thick. It's R8. And I'm not able to do anything to get him down, which is really unfortunate. Now Malik doesn't have buff immunity anymore, so he'll start taunting, which is bad news, which is why I just decided to go after him and try to take him out first and then focus on Sith Eternal. But it's too little too late because the team is already starting to heal. They're starting to take out most of my characters, and I am not able to make any progress at all. At this point, I said, screw it. Let me just go ahead and do an AoE and take out at least a few side characters, and then decide to take out Malik first, and then I can always clean up a solo Sith Eternal. So that's what I'm doing over here. I'm taking out the side characters and seeing if I can at least take down Malik, so that I can have an easier job cleaning it up. So that's what I'm doing over here. Problem with Malik is he fears that whole team. And anytime you do a crit or land dots, he fears the whole team, and that really interrupts the turn meter train that you have. And that's game over right now because he's reached his ultimate, and my Grievous has got Link on him, so he is defeated pretty easily. So only able to take out a couple of characters, so have to clean it up with something. So the next couple of battles, I think I just tried to throw a bunch of stuff at it to clean it up. I threw, I think, troopers in there. I threw CLS in there, a bunch of stuff. But troopers, really with Malik in there, troopers, are a big fail. I should have probably taken something in to get rid of Malik and then gone with troopers to take out Sidious and Emperor Palpatine or Sith Eternal. But that trooper thing was a big failure. So then I said, let me go in with something heavier and at least try to take down Malik. So I went in with my Rebel squad, and these guys do tons of burst damage. Even though there is fear applied most of the time, I was able to focus down and take care of Malik over here. And then I thought, let me take care of Sidious so that I'm able to take out Lone Sith Eternal much more easier. So he's already reached his ultimate, which is unfortunate. But this is at this point of time, it's an easy enough cleanup. With Lone Sith Eternal in there, you can clean up with your troopers. Unfortunately, I've already got my troopers out. You can clean up with bounty hunters. I had other plans for my bounty hunters, so I decided to go in with my geos. Geos are pretty reliable as a cleanup against Sith Eternal just because they apply tenacity down, they've got tons of healing, they've got ability block, and they can prevent Sith Eternal from reaching his ultimate. And you've got a nuke in the form of Spy as well. And this is a health modded R8 Sith Eternal, but and my Geos are not that relic up at all. I think only Spy is relic 3 or 5 or something like that. The rest of my Geos are all G11. That's why you see it's taking a while for them to get Sith Eternal down, and he's already reached his ultimate. But by now, Relic Geos would have probably got the job done. It's taking a long amount of time, but I am finally able to land one big hit with Spy and take him out. So relatively clean, cheap cleanup. So now that Sith Eternal's taken care of, the rest of the squads are pretty easy. Iden is my go-to counter for relic up Mon Mothma squads. It's and my Iden team, I've decided not to relic them up anymore. I can't keep them on defense because Wampa Omicron is becoming more and more common, and that's becoming a really cheap way to take out Iden. And I think that they are more bang for the buck if you keep them on, if you save them for offense to take out high relic Mon Mothma squads. You can see over here this Mon Mothma squad is mostly R7s. I think Power is R2, but Kara is R7, Kyle Katarn is R7 as well, and so are the rest of them. And my Mon Mothma team is all G11 or G12 actually, rather mostly G12 with only Shore as R3, and they do a pretty decent job. They've taken out really highly relic, highly modded, Kyle Katarn teams, Mon Mothma teams. So I think this is the best bang for the buck. I don't think I'm going to be spending any more gear on my Iden team. Might get Iden to G12 once I have all of her stars, but otherwise I think this team is just fine as it is to use on offense. No need to invest anything more because there's so many new characters coming in with the Inquisitors and tons of other potential ships coming in which might require characters to relic up that I don't think I want to spend any more time on characters like Mon Mothma or on Iden. I think they're good enough as it is. All right, so taken out almost everyone over here, and I did manage to take out Cara Dune with the death mark, so she's not going to be able to revive. Cara Dune is actually my biggest fear when I take this counter against it because if she's able to land that stun on my team, then it slows things down a little bit. But there's really no danger in either case. But as long as you're able to control the battle effectively and get your Death Trooper to go first to reduce Cara Dune's cooldown, she never really gets to land her stun ability against the Empire at all. So it's a pretty simple enough counter. There you go, 65. Pretty happy with that. So, yep, and let's go ahead and clear up the top zone now. This is a Relic Up Geo squad. It's, I think, mostly R5 to R7 with a Relic Up Droidica in there as well. But yeah, it's Bad Batch is a really simple counter to this one. They can take care of this squad in like less than 30 seconds. You dispel all the buffs, control the battle, and then get defense up from Wrecker, and then just wreck the team. All the AoE damage, yeah, there you can see 30 seconds and the team is out. So not much of a battle there. Let's clean up the other two teams which are also relatively weak. So the goal is to get 65 on all of these. Still have my Aura Bounty Hunters which can take out some really tough squads. So use them against the B bounty hunter squad, don't allow them to take a turn essentially, and finish this off. This is definitely one of the highlights of my offense, Aura Bounty Hunter. This is so much fun to play with, especially with Zam Omicron in there. There's, they don't allow the enemy to take a turn at all. And the amount of turn meter generation that happens over here, the amount of damage because of the stat boost that you get from Zam, it's just so much fun to play with this team. My Mando is just G12. He's not even G13, and this counter works perfectly fine because for the uses that I have for the Mando, he's perfectly fine at G12 because you basically don't allow the enemy to take a turn. It's just based on his execute ability or disintegrate rather. And since I had all my Jedi left, I just decided to take them in versus this mishmash Jedi Wampa squad. It's pretty. And I still had my Qui-Gon Jinn left, which is why I ended up not using Qui-Gon Jinn, and that's why I repurposed my Cam from Qui-Gon Jinn team to this team. So 2 damage dealers and more than enough protection recovery on these guys. There we go. Took care of Ezra. Now take care of Ayla, next biggest damage dealer, and then just take care of the other 2. All right, so we're doing okay so far on offense. We had a few low banner matches and a couple of drop battles, but I think only 1 drop battle, right? No, 2 drop battles, I think. But we did manage to get decent banners on everything else, about 65 almost on all the other B teams which were out there. I believe 65 on this one as well. There you go. All right, only ships left. So at this point of time, I knew that my opponent had given up on ships because he wasn't able to clear. So all I needed to do was clear to win. And if I couldn't clear, then I needed to get 74 average on each of the 2 ships in order for me to win, which is a really tall order. It's almost impossible with these banner stripping teams like Negotiator and Executrix in there. So I needed to clear. There's no way that I can win on efficiency. My opponent was more efficient than me on the ground battles, so I needed to be able to full clear in order to win. So I decided to try my rebel counter because I didn't have. I could have used the Malevolence as well, but I wanted to save the Malevolence for the Empire fleet because I couldn't use my rebels over there. So I decided to use my rebel counter against Negotiator. Now, this is the first time I'm trying it out with the remodding of Biston. So Biston is now faster than Han's Millennium Falcon, which drastically improves the chance of success for rebels against a Negotiator fleet. If the Obviously you're not going to see TIE Bomber in there, so rebels are safe to use. If there's an Ahsoka in there, then I typically tend to go after Ahsoka, but in all other cases, it's best to go after Anakin, apply the Biston's target lock on him, get him down to yellow or red, and force the healing ability from the Negotiator. So that's what I do over here. I apply target lock, focus down on him, and save the wiggle because you might get dazed later on and you want to save the wiggle for that. I force the valor ability over there or the savior ability, and then I decide to heal up my bigs. They're going after my Biston, which is not great news, but luckily Relic Biston managed to survive over there, which is great. And then I'm trying to go after Anakin whenever I can. Luckily, Clone Sarge didn't come in here. If Clone Sarge was in the lineup, then it would have been a little tricky for the rebels. I would have to, do something else. But now I was able to get Cassian and dispel all the buffs and get rid of Anakin, which was the main danger character. If Clone Sarge was in there, then I would have probably gotten my Y-Wing to dispel the protection on the Clone Sarge and then target Anakin. That probably would have been the way to go. So bigs get taken out, which is bad news. But you can see over here, my Han's Millennium Falcon did get dazed. So it's a good thing that I saved my Wiggle till after the daze was out. And now I just need to focus down on the other characters and get them down. I'm trying to take out the problematic characters first. So I took out Plo, took out trying to take out Rex right now because he heals a ton and gives a ton of tenacity. But you can see over here, he's got all the ships in there. He's not really skimped out on any of the Galactic Republic ships. So Plo comes in, Fives comes in and takes out my Biston, which is problematic. But I also have a full fleet of rebel ships in there, so I'm trying to do what I can to take out the most important ships over here. Rebel Wiving doesn't really do much damage, unfortunately. But I'm trying to get the problematic characters out. Without Anakin in there, there's really not much damage on this fleet. So I'm just trying to take down as many characters as I can before the time runs out. There, another reinforcement comes in. So he's gone in with all 4 reinforcements over here for the Negotiator. Trying to get Fives down because his damage does ramp up and he can get problematic. So I get in my Phantom, get rid of Fives. There's the Mass Assist, and another one of my ships is gone. So I'm really losing ships left, right, and center. But I'm trying to do the best that I can. I get in all the reinforcements because I want all of them to be there when I do my ultimate. Not that the ultimate is that useful with the home one, but you know, the more ships you have when you do the ultimate, the more turns you get. And I'm trying to take down Ahsoka. Was able to take her down. And another fleet comes in, another ship comes in. So all 4. So it really, helps to steal the banners and can get problematic if you fail in your first attempt against a Negotiator, especially if you've kept all of your ships on defense. You can see over here, even in a 4v2 situation, I ended up losing most of my ships. And my rebel ships are, the support ships are not that geared and relicked up, so they're pretty weak. And you can see over here, I have almost lost all my ships, so it's like really terrible banners, and there's just like 1 minute left in the battle. So I heal up my Ghost. I'm trying to survive and at least take care of the Y-Wing. It's a tanky ship, and he's able to do decent damage. But over here you can see I'm left with only 1 ship right now. It's a 1v1. There are no reinforcements on either sides. It's just my own Han's Millennium Falcon against the Y-Wing. And all I need to do is keep healing up and trying to take care of the last enemy fleet. So that's what I'm doing over here. It's taken a while, this battle. It's gone down to the last 30 seconds. And I'm finally able to take him out for 54 banners. Probably one of the lowest banners that you can get in a one-shot. Pretty bad. But the most important thing was it was a one-shot and I didn't have to waste another fleet taking that Y-Wing out. So I was okay with the outcome because all I needed to do was clear to win. Now against the Empire fleet, I could have used First Order and to really focus down and get him out. But with B-28 Bomber in there, First Order is really problematic just because it applies days and there's really no cleanser that I have. My Gauntlet it was with my Empire fleet and Plo is with my Galactic Republic fleet, both on defense. So without a cleanser in there, having B-28 becomes problematic for the First Order fleet, which is why I decided to go in and at least snipe a few characters out using the Malevolence fleet. Typically with the TIE Interceptor in there, Malevolence suffers a little bit, especially if it doesn't have the cleanser. But, I decided to chance it just because the amount of damage that the Malevolence fleet does is pretty tremendous. And, you might be able to snipe a few ships out quite early. So you can see over here the shuttle was called in early because there's interceptor in the lineup. But I'm trying to take down the TIE bomber before they do too much damage to my ships. And you can see over here the amount of damage that these guys are doing is insane. My Hyena bomber is almost out, and I've barely taken out any of the enemy ships. So once I lose my taunt, it's a losing battle. So that's the reason why Empire, especially with the TIE Interceptor, is so strong versus the Malevolence fleet, especially if you have Gauntlet in there. instead of a TIE bomber, then no, instead of the Sith bomber, B-28 bomber, then this would have been a really short match for the Malevolence. So if you see the Malevolence on defense, this is actually a great fleet to take in against that. The Empire fleet with the TIE Interceptor, instead of TIE bomber in there, have a gauntlet in there to cleanse the buzz droids, and there's going to be nothing which will stop you from taking care of the Malevolence fleet. Here also you can see I'm struggling and I'm barely hanging on, trying to take down most of the key ships. I've taken down the bomber, taken down the shuttle, taken down the Vader ship, and now it's just the Sith Marauder in there. And luckily, the buzz droids are able to help me get enough damage done. So I think it'll do fine on offense, Malevolence versus the Empire fleet. But on defense, especially, Empire fleet now is a hard counter with Gauntlet and Interceptor in there. It's a hard counter to Malevolence. So if you see any of the tricky Malevolence comps, then definitely feel free to take in the Empire fleet against it. So 64 banners, not the best banners, but it was a one shot. And the most important thing with fleets is not banners, but one shotting it, because you've got very few fleets left, and you need to have the luxury to be able to double shot or clean up with another capital ship if needed. That's why it's so important to keep multiple good ships on defense, because if you fail on a couple of ships, then there's just no clearing the ship zone at all. It's extremely important to one-shot all of the ships right now. So, and if you leave easy ships on the board, then you can take two weak fleets to one-shot those easy ships and use your toughest fleets on the toughest ship on the board. So that's why I'm all for keeping three tough fleets on defense. Even if it's not the Executor, even if you keep the Negotiator, Malevolence, and Empire fleet, it will really cause problem for opponents, because they have to make sure that they one-shot all three at the same time. They have very limited options for cleanup. Anyway, here I use Raddus as a mirror. That's the best use for Raddus right now in a mirror situation, because almost all people right now are keeping the Raddus on defense. They have no better thing to do with the Raddus right now. It's a cleanup fleet, and nowadays, since cleanup is really not that viable with limited capital ships on offense, most people tend to keep the Raddus on defense, because it needs a decent capital ship for you to take against it, especially if you keep in things like Clone Sarge in there and allow you to get some amount of survivability. It can do it can do a decent job of staying and causing problems for your B ships. So I think it's perfectly fair for people to keep Raddus on defense right now, especially with a relic up tank, the fortress that they have. Mine is only 4-star, I think, but once I get it 7-star, then I think there's more of a case to keep it on defense. So you can see over here, the Raddus has actually taken out a couple of my ships on defense, which can get problematic. So, doing a pretty decent job on defense. If I was running out of fleet, if I had to use this Raddus of my own to clean up any other fleet, then I would have been in trouble, because I don't think the Mace fleet is going to be able to take this out. But the other reason I like to take Raddus against Raddus in a mirror is because whatever happens, whichever capital ship reaches the ultimate, both the capital ships get taken out. So even if the enemy Raddus reaches the ultimate first, it'll be an easy job for me to clean up, because there's no capital ship on the board. I can take in whatever fleet I want, First Order, Mace, any other cheap fleet. If I have a leftover ships left with my second Empire fleet, I can take anything in and clean up the enemy resistance fleet without the holder's capital ship. That's a pretty easy cleanup, because they don't get any of the buffs. So that's another reason why it's not the end of the world if you lose in a Raddus mirror. All you need to do is survive and ensure that the enemy Raddus does its ultimate and gets taken out early, so that you can follow it up for an easy cleanup. But as you can see over here, even though I lost a few ships earlier on, I was able to pull out the victory pretty easily in a Raddus mirror. Low banners, but what can you do? Anyway, so there we go. I was able to full clear, got pretty low banner, 1770, because I was highly inefficient in my character zone and dropped a couple of battles there. But I did okay on the ship side. Luckily, apart from Negotiator, there were no other tough ships on defense. Well, there was the Empire as well, yeah. So, but there was no Executor. If the Executor was there and I've had to multiple shot, then that would have made my other battles a little tricky as well. So that is ultimately what ended up happening. I ended up with the 1770 versus 1513 from my opponent, and managed to snag a victory over here. So that's it for my second battle. I'm looking forward to my third battle. It's against a person who's actually got one less GL than me. There's no Ray in that person's lineup, which is going to be interesting. But I'm always wary of people who are either lower GP than me or who've got lesser GLs than me, because if they've reached to a stage where they're matched up with me, that means they really know how to play the game. They know their off meta counters, their mods are off the shelf, and they're in general very decent players. They tend to trip up their opponents and all that. So always be careful of people who are lesser GP than you and who've got lesser GLs than you. If they get matched up with you, means there's a reason that they've got matched up, which means they're good. So those are the matches that you shouldn't take lightly at all. Anyway, so that's it for today's match. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I will upload another video next week probably, when I get more characters geared up and more counters in place. So until then, take care and happy gaming, and I'll catch you guys next week. Bye.